Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We are very much looking forward to helping you get started with your college application process. I am Felicia Fahey. I am the founder of Fahey Associates, and I'm joined here today by my associates, Shanley Jacobs and Jamie Nickel. We will start with just a few technicalities. We are recording this webinar. We will be providing a copy of the recording with a handout. So there's no need to take notes unless you really want to. We will also include the links in the handout. So you'll really have everything you need. Please post your questions in the Q&A. We will be taking questions at the end. We will mostly be focusing on questions that are relevant to everyone. If you have a particular question about your student, or if you're a student and you have a particular question about your own application process, if you could send that to us in an email, that way we can kind of share questions with the group that are relevant to everyone. We will be recording, taking note, and answering any questions that we're unable to answer at the very end, and we'll be providing those questions and answers in our follow-up FAQ, which includes the questions that you've asked and also questions that families have asked us over the years that are mostly pretty detail-oriented, but interesting and potentially very useful to you. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our program. We call this the College Application Program, and we refer to it quite a bit as CAP. We've been helping families with the college application process now for over 15 years. And with all of that knowledge and expertise and experience, we've developed this program to make the process as painless as possible for you, and to maximize creativity, maximize efficiency. So just so that you understand what that looks like, I'm basically going to walk you through how the whole program is organized. First of all, you all have received a family checklist, and I'm just going to share my screen quickly so that you all can see, and you've looked at this already because you RSVP'd for this webinar today, but you each have a copy of this family checklist that you received in your onboarding email. It has all of the events that we're running this year, and I'll go over those in just a minute. It has your checklist of things that you'll be completing for the family meeting 1. And we'll be looking at this each time we meet. It has the list of things that will happen between June and August, and then the tasks that you'll be completing for the family meeting 2. And then finally, all of the tasks to complete when you're getting ready to apply. So there are basically 3 phases to the process. The first phase is setting the foundations and gathering materials and starting your college search. The second phase is really completing the applications and writing the essay. And then the third phase is actually applying. You all have also been given a link to a shared folder. This is where we share documents with you and you share documents with us. There's some very key items in here. I just want to highlight one that we haven't referred to yet, because many of you are getting ready to put together your resume. And we have this document in here of adjectives that describe your skills and your values. And this is really useful for when you're writing essays or you're putting together your resume or your activity statement. You also have a template resume in this folder. You have the Common App evaluation forms, and these are the forms that your teachers and counselors are using to write their letters of recommendation, and we'll be looking at those again. You also have a college research worksheet, which is an optional item for you to use when you're doing your research to track what you're finding. And we include ideas and tips in there to help you do your research. And that's really the focus of our meeting today, is the college list, building the college list and doing your college research. So we'll be spending some time there. Let's see here. Additionally, so in terms of the program timeline, we have the family meeting 1 with you. That's really our, again, the meeting to set the foundations, understand, look at your resume. So you'll be putting together your first draft of your resume or your first run of your resume. You'll be letting us know what teachers you're planning to request letters of recommendation from. You'll be filling out some forms. So parents will fill out forms about what they think is important to know about their student, and parents, you'll be able to reuse that information if you'd like in your brag sheet for the high school. So this work can be reused, your resume can be reused. Students, you'll be completing a form that tells us what your current GPA is to date, what your exam scores or plans for taking exams are. You're going to tell us some college criteria that you have. Let us know what majors you're thinking of and how certain you are about those majors. So it's really a kind of an audit to see where you are at this point and what you're thinking and what you're planning. So you'll be filling out those forms for this family meeting. After the family meeting one, and families will sort of choose to book that meeting when they most feel prepared to. So you do need to prepare those items prior to the meeting and sort of have an idea of the majors and have an idea of the college list. If you don't, you should get in touch with us so that we can provide advising to you and help you with that step. During that meeting, so during the winter, spring, we're also running a brainstorming workshop with students. This is going to happen in March. It's a really, really important part of the process of thinking through who you are, starting to make a list of things that you've done and experiences that you've had, and descriptions of who you are so that we can help you start to elaborate those stories that are going to help you really map out your college admissions essays over the summer. Over the summer, we'll have a second essay writing camp that's focused, or workshop that's focused strictly on the why do you want to come to our college essay. This is one of the most important essays that you'll be writing, and it's a very particular genre, and there's ways of doing that essay. So we're going to be doing dedicating an entire workshop to that over the summer. On August 6th, there is a boot camp, and in that boot camp, it will be, it's several hours long. We'll basically be helping you to complete your application. So we're going to show you what you need to know, answer questions. It'll be very hands-on. You'll be filling out your application and answering us questions. And this allows you to be very efficient throughout the process to just get work done in large chunks instead of letting it kind of spread out over many weeks or many months. So that's basically how we've organized our program. We then have the family meeting 2 with you in August, which is a meeting to review your applications, your application strategy, make sure you understand all the questions that your high school counseling team is asking you, and basically get ready for you to start putting in your applications in October. So it gives us plenty of time, and you'll be booking your meeting at some point in August, possibly at the beginning of September. In the fall, college application process will begin in October. 60% of the colleges you're applying to will be done by October 26th. So that's a very strict deadline that we have to help you get in your early action, early decision applications. Before November 10th, you'll be getting your UC applications done, sending out any other applications that are due in November, and then putting in the queue all of your completed applications for to send out in December. We do not do, so by November 10th, we are done in the process of getting all of the essays and all of the work and the applications done. The reason for this is that school becomes very busy at this time, and we basically lose students. They go completely MIA. After November 10th, you're going to need to start completing projects. You're going to have more homework to do. We want you to have a rest over to the Thanksgiving break. And then during the first 2 weeks of December, you're going to be in finals, which means that you're going to be completely exhausted during the 2-week break of winter. So we don't do any work with students at that point. We are completely done by November 10th. And again, the reason for this is to be efficient, to make sure students can do their best work, and also very importantly, to make sure that students are taking a break so that they're prepared for their finals and they can really take a rest over the winter break. So you will all be very thankful to us next year when, or in the fall, when you can start planning for your winter 2 weeks off and know that you will not owe anything due in terms of your applications. Okay, so that kind of gives you an overview of the program and what we'll be doing with you over the next several, 9 months, almost a year. We will be here with you the whole time, all next year. So all winter, all spring, we'll be here to answer questions, help you with any follow-up interviews and anything else that comes up. But mostly we're just focusing now on this process of putting together the applications and getting them out the door in the fall. For your junior year, so as you all know, the junior year is important for many of your schools. So if you're applying early or you're applying to the UCs, you will not be able to submit your fall grades. Now, they may ask for a quarter report, and we'll be addressing this with you in the fall. Some schools want to see one for your ED schools. Most schools don't. They can't, large state schools can't process an additional transcript, or they don't even look at transcripts. But so many of your schools, your early action and your early decision schools, will not be seeing any grades past the junior year or the summer after the junior year. So in other words, if you take a class over the summer, that will count. It'll be on your transcript. It'll be part of your GPA. But anything after the summer will not appear on your transcript and will not be part of your application. So it's important to do well in school, keep up your grades. We do want you to be thinking about majors. Colleges ask you to indicate 2 majors. Most of the students that we've been meeting with over the last year and that we've spoken with have an idea of what major they want. Maybe you haven't thought about a second option. The UCs will ask for a second option. USC asks for a second option. Urbana-Champaign. Small liberal arts colleges generally don't. Sometimes they'll just ask you to list a bunch of majors that you might be interested in, but the large state schools definitely ask you to indicate a couple majors on your application. So that's something that we want you to think about. And again, if you don't know yet what major, you really have no idea, or you're confused about what major to declare on your application, please be in touch with us and we'll set up a meeting to discuss that with you. Colleges last year, we saw a big shift in essay topics. And I would say 25% of colleges were asking the question, how have you had an impact on your peers, or on your high school, or on your community? So they're very much interested in knowing how students are affecting other people, how they're interacting with people, that they're not in an isolated bubble. So this is something important for you to be thinking about. How do you affect your peers? Everybody is pretty much interacting with students in some way at your high school or in the community. Some of you may be doing a lot of service work. Some of you are having a positive impact in your sports or in music or in robotics or in your debate club or whatever it is you're doing. So think that over. And if you're feeling confused and you're not sure what you would write for that question, again, we want you to contact us, reach out, and we'll set up some time to talk to you about it. We want to know that sooner than later so that we can help you find ways to have a positive impact, or to identify the ways that you already are, so that you're not questioning that, and that you also have time to continue working on it between now and the summer. As you all know, SAT exams and ACT or ACT are important to take. You do not need to take them both. You should be planning to take your exams this year. If you've already taken them and you're happy with your exam score, you don't need to retake them. If you are planning to go test optional, so the UCs are no longer taking the SAT and the ACT, the CSUs are no longer taking it. If you are hoping to go test optional and have only schools on your list that are test optional, you should also reach out to us. There are quite a few small liberal arts colleges that do not require the SAT, ACT But it's a smaller list. So you'll want to be thinking about that strategically over the next 6 months. So please get in touch with us if you're one of those students that's really hoping to go test optional. There are just a very few schools out there like Loyola Marymount that may still be test optional. But what we're seeing generally right now is that most schools are going to require exam scores next year. Summer, you're planning your summer. Please be in touch with us. We've sent out summer list, opportunities list. We've also sent out a list of volunteer opportunities. We'll be sending those out again as part of our handout. Your summer should be meaningful to you, meaning that you're doing something to further explore your academic areas of interest or your service or some project that you're interested in. Something that you're doing. You want it to be an active summer. You don't want it to be too active. So, because we will be working with you on your essays and we will need your full attention on those essays, please plan to spend 4 hours at least on meeting with us, writing your essays, drafting them, refining them. This is a really important task to do over the summer. You don't want to wait until August or September when you're back in school and things are really busy. So we're helping you to build the foundation of your essays over the summer and actually getting those essays done so that when the fall hits, you have still some work to do. We are going to be looking at very final essays due by the end of September. So we have 4 months to work with you, and we're going to be walking you through a set of deadlines and a process, a creative process, a refinement process to really help you do the best work that you can. So that's really important. Please don't pack it in. Please don't travel all over the world so that you're jet lagged many of the weeks during the summer. We really need you to work with us and have a focused summer. You do not have to go off and go to a camp, right, for the summer or go do research on a college campus. If you're feeling that you have interesting things that you're doing here at home as part of your clubs, as part of your service to the community, or just in terms of your coursework here, maybe you're going to take classes at a community college, that's all fine. You don't have to go off and do something super fancy. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to us. We're happy to help you brainstorm something that you can do at home, or just, give you some feedback about what you're choosing to do. So we're here to answer your questions. We're here to work with you. We don't want any of this to pile up or for there to be any surprises. So we're, please be in touch with us as you have questions. Family meeting 1. So I'm just going over the items that are due, but you will be receiving the same list. You can see it inside of your family checklist. These items are there. You will actually be putting the names of the teachers that you want letters of recommendation from inside that family checklist. So that's where we want to see it. We're going to be looking at that checklist with you and going through all those items and talking about your questions and asking our questions. But that's where you'll be basically listing who you're hoping to ask a letter of recommendation from. Most high schools will ask you to request letters of recommendation in March or April. Those are generally the months they ask you to do that. And they may ask you not to ask teachers until then, so that teachers aren't getting bombarded all semester long. You can ask your counselor about that if you have any questions. We want you to think forward about the letters of recommendation now, because how you act in the classroom, completing assignments on time, showing initiative, all of those things. If you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to ask my math teacher or my English teacher this year for a letter of recommendation, then you can also focus on being a better student in the class. And we'll be showing you the forms that your teachers will be using to write the letters of recommendation. So you can go through those different characteristics that they're evaluating you on and say, oh, I need to show more initiative in the class, or I should be helping to lead discussion, or whatever it is that you feel like, oh, I could improve a little bit on that area in this class since this teacher will be writing me a letter of recommendation. So I'm going to let Shanley talk about all of this. Oh, just to finish up, there's the letter of recommendations. We want to know your major. And then we are also asking you to pull the admissions data for any of the colleges that you're interested in from your high school. And you can do this on SCORE. Each high school has uses a different software for tracking their students and doing the common applications with them. So you might be using SCORE, you might be using Kickstart, you might be using Maya, or the most common one is Naviance, but there may be new ones out there as well. So basically you want to go in, look up the data for your colleges and see how students at your high school are performing. Different colleges have different relationships with high schools. So we see at some high schools that colleges admit a lot of students from those high schools, but not so much from other high schools. So the more we have information about the track record at your high school, the better we can help you shape that list and be strategic. So I'm going to pass it over to Shanley, who's going to talk a little bit more about the resume and letters of recommendation.
Great. Thank you, Felicia. And welcome, everyone. The first item is just to go over the resume, which you should all have an updated resume template in your shared folders. And so the reason that we want to go over the resume is that many colleges will give you the option to include a resume, and some will actually require a resume. So that depends on your college list. We're asking you to prepare the resume with your parents. So the reason for that is that your parents come with a lot of professional experience, and the exercise allows you to see and frame your experience and to learn from your parents from their professional experience. Sometimes, since you're new at this, you won't know what actually counts as professional experience or what might be impressive. Working with your parents will help you, again, pull out the activities that are going to be the most impactful to highlight, and you'll be able to learn from their resumes and their professional experience as well. You may also be asked to present a resume to a teacher or to an outside recommender that's going to be writing you a letter of recommendation. So this is another reason that we have you prepare this in advance and have it ready to go according to that timeline that Felicia spoke about for your letters of recommendation. So again, as Felicia said, the letters of recommendation are generally done between March or April. And so in your family checklist, you'll see a handout specifically on the letters of recommendation, which has quite a bit of information in there. I'm going to go ahead and show you that common application letter of recommendation quickly, so that you are familiar with it. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so this is the Common App teacher evaluation form. And in the beginning, there's, demographic data for you to fill out and then your teacher to fill out and school details. And then this page is actually what I wanted to highlight. This is how your teachers will be evaluating you. So these columns over here are how your teachers, your recommenders will be evaluating you and uploading that information to your Common App. So this is something to review and to be familiar with, and just have a good understanding of what they're evaluating you on. And then the next piece that I wanted to go over, I'm going to share part of the letters of recommendation appendix here. 1 second. All right. So this is the CAP letters of recommendation appendix that's linked in your family checklist. And you'll be going over this to make sure that you're familiar with the letters of recommendation needed for different majors. One thing to highlight is that you'll need to do letters of recommendation from a math recommender if you're going into computer science or engineering. So that's something that generally we'd like to highlight. That's a little bit different from last year. That was a new addition, that colleges are really wanting to see that math science teacher, along with a humanities and social science teacher for a letter of recommendation for those majors. So please go over and review this appendix. There is a template that you'll be using that we've provided here for reaching out for your teachers and then following up in August with your recommenders. So we've provided some information here on responding and asking for those letters of recommendation. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have questions, excuse me, on either of those items, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A and we'll address them at the end.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shanley. One thing I also want to mention, some teachers will ask you to complete a form, in which case you don't need to use this letter that we're recommending. So we basically recommend that once a teacher says, yes, I'll write you a letter, that you send a thank you note and let them know how you've contributed in the class and what you think you've done well and what you've enjoyed, so that you're giving them concrete, detailed information to help them with their letter. It's basically a strategy to improve your letter. They are looking, admissions, they do look at letters, they evaluate letters. A very common phrase they use is, what do the letters say? So this is sort of our strategy to help you form those letters and give the teacher as much very detailed information as you can, and show them how you've grown and changed. And then that also allows you to thank them for having been a great teacher and having inspired you. So that's what we recommend. If they give you a form, then you don't want to send them a letter. They'll just be annoyed, right? So they may be really well organized and they may say, yes, I'm happy to write you a letter of recommendation. Please complete this form. And then you don't write the letter. So that's how that goes. And again, we're here to help out with any questions you have as you go through that process of requesting letters. Just to echo what Shanley just shared with you, Cornell required a math letter for engineering as of last year. So we did see a shift. Other schools want to see either math, like Caltech, math science, and a social sciences humanities. So this is something that we track, that we want to make sure you're aware of. If you are going into engineering colleges, they can be a little bit more picky about the letters that you provide. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. Letters of recommendation should come from core teachers. So they generally shouldn't come from business or economics might be okay if you're applying to business or math or economics. But if you're, generally speaking, they should come from math, science, English, language, and what am I missing here? Social sciences are fine as well, like history. And so if you have any questions, again, this isn't going to happen for a couple months. We're just presenting all of this information now so that you can start thinking about it. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We're here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is jump into college research. So this is a really important, so your college list is the basis of your applications, basically. It's the most important thing you're putting together in this process, in addition to your essays, but really everything starts at your college list. Choosing a college is a big move, and students, I want you to think about, if for some reason you had to change high schools and you're going to change high schools in the Bay Area, you would put a lot of time into thinking about, well, what is that high school like? You would want to go visit it. You would want to kind of maybe talk to students that are going there and get a sense of what is it like to go to that high school. It's basically the same thing for college. You want to have a really clear sense of what the college fit is, what the environment is like, whether the college offers all the academic and professional opportunities that you're looking for. College is also an enormous purchase. So it costs between $200,000 and $500,000 to go through college today. That's a lot of money. So you really want to make sure that you go and visit, right? So you want to do your research and you want to go and visit the school and make sure that, you're familiar with and comfortable with the student body, that you feel that the service that you're receiving from the school matches what you're looking for in terms of the attention that you're getting from the administration and perhaps from your faculty members, that the location is okay with you. A lot of students say, I want to go to New York City, I want to go to NYU, and they go to New York City and they feel like it's too big and they change their mind. So understanding where schools are located and what it feels like to be on the campus. Some students want to have a campus quad. That's really important, that there are, kind of a traditional college vibe. So again, the feeling is very important. And then the student body is very important. And just to share an anecdote with you, I worked with a student who had not visited all of the schools on her list, partly because of health reasons. She was admitted to Boulder and went, and then was surprised to discover how outdoorsy everybody was. And because she wasn't an outdoorsy person, she felt a little bit out of place there. So those are the kinds of surprises you don't want to have, and why visiting colleges is really key. So, but you don't want to go visit colleges until you're pretty sure that those are colleges you want to go visit. So doing research ahead of time, and many of you are planning to go in February or in April over the spring break, or even May. Great times to go visit the colleges. So you now have a window to start looking at these colleges and making sure that they really are a good fit. You don't want to get to a college and find out they don't have your major, for example. And that happens with computer science, engineering, business, marketing. Not every school is going to have those majors. So it is important to do some homework ahead of time. Let's see, the other thing that, and also what's important here is that colleges feel like you're about to spend a lot of money. So they're also expecting you to come. Like, they really want to make sure that you're going to enroll after they've admitted you. And that's very important today as it becomes more competitive. There are more students applying. Colleges really want to make sure that the students they're enrolling or admitting are also going to show up in the fall. So that may surprise you all, but that's actually something they put quite a bit of time and energy into. Let's see, it's important that you not spend too much time researching and visiting the Ivies and the UCs. And the reason for that is that demonstrated interest visiting, knowing the school really well until you go through an interview. So in the fall, if you want to, really understand Harvard for your interview, that's a great time. But spending this spring and winter time visiting Ivies and visiting UCs is really a waste of money and time, because it's not going to have an impact on your chances of being admitted. Most of you, if you're admitted to an Ivy, you're going to go, right? So there's no question of like, do I like this school or do I not like this school? So it's really important that your time visiting colleges or visiting schools that are really in the 10 to 20% range in terms of the admissions rate, and that your chances of getting in are very, are good, or that it's a reach and not a super reach. So super reaches are generally a 1 to 5 admit rate. Again, this will all be on the handout, so you'll have it to refer to. You don't really want more than 2 super reaches on your list. Reaches are going to have an admit rate between 6 and 15%, and you don't want more than 2 of those. So we're kind of 2, reach super reaches, or you might decide to do 4 reaches. That's more common. For matches, you don't want to really go beyond the 15 to 35% admit rate. That's really the sweet spot. And then safeties are usually schools where there's a 40% or more admit rate. So we'll be sending this information out. We've got plenty of time. This is just really an overview of what to expect. And again, we're here to answer your questions. And it's part of the reason we're presenting this information now, so that you can kind of think about what questions do you have that you would like us to answer immediately. And we can answer them here today, but we're here also to answer your questions by email. So research is important. College is a stepping stone. So now I'm kind of transitioning into how to do your college research. So this is what you'll do before you go off and visit campuses. College is a stepping stone to your professional life. You will be getting out of college when you're 21, 22, and you'll be stepping into a job. While you're in college, you will want to be learning an area of study, whether it's marketing or English or philosophy. You're learning some kind of field, right? You also want to be gaining professional skills while you're in college. So you don't just want to go to college and only do school. You also want to get an internship or do research or do service volunteer activities, much like you are all doing already, to make sure that you're getting skills working with people, having responsibility, learning how to do things. You know, you may be learning how to program or work on a programming team, or you might even be in an engineering research company and learning how to work in a lab. All of these things are really important so that when you graduate, you're actually ready to step into a job because you've had experience coupled with your educational degree. So that's become very important since 2008, when we had a huge economic crisis. A lot of kids were coming home after high school or after college and didn't have a job. And so colleges have really put a lot of structures in place to make sure that you are thinking about your major before you get to college, that you have the resources to figure out your major while you're in college, and then to make sure that you're getting experience so that when you graduate, you're ready to go. I am going to say that some colleges and universities are better at this than others. So it's one of the things that I'd like you to be researching while you're looking at schools, because you may, if you're choosing between two schools, you may decide to go to the university that offers a whole bunch of internship opportunities in town, as opposed to the one that really doesn't have the same offerings during the year, maybe because it's more isolated from a large city, or because they just don't have the network set up. So those are important things to think about. So college is a stepping stone. One of the main ways that you'll be doing your research is through the college website. And I just want to share with you quickly what it looks like and feels like to go straight into a college website. I know this is sort of obvious, but I'm basically what I'm trying to show you is how confusing it can be. So we're going to look at Cal Poly here. And basically the website, if you go right in through the straight door, you know, right straight in through the front door, they're speaking to current students, prospective students, current parents, prospective parents, donors, alumni. So when you come in here, staff, faculty. So basically the website is here for absolutely everybody, and finding your way through the front door can be quite confusing and difficult. So it can take you 3 or 4 minutes to get to the list of majors. So what I'm going to be walking you through now is sort of the alternative way to do your research on these colleges, which just makes it a lot faster. So one of the things that I recommend understanding in this whole process while you get, you know, sort of as you're stepping into doing your research, is the difference between large universities and small liberal arts colleges. And most high school students don't really know what that difference is. And parents might even have a little bit of trouble because maybe they're not familiar. They never attended a small liberal arts college, so they're not super clear about what those differences are. And so I'm going to take some time here to just discuss with you what makes a university different from a small liberal arts college. So first and foremost, large universities like Stanford, the UCs, University of Wisconsin, University of Washington, Purdue, Urbana-Champaign, these universities are set up to do research, right? And the Ivy League. So the Ivy Leagues are definitely research institutes before they are anything else. So what does that, you know, what does that look like? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you again. We're going to be doing a bunch of searches. So if I do the search for the colleges that I'm looking for, so let's say I want to look at Stanford, I'm going to put in the search term Stanford, and I'm going to put in research, right? And when I do that, I'm going to come up with this page. So this is a lot better than going in through the front door, right? Now I know exactly what I'm looking for and I'm landing on it. Just to give you an idea of how immense Stanford is and how much they put into their research, which many of you know because Stanford is in our back door or backyard. They have 18 institutes. They have over $1.5 million or $1.5 billion that go into research. They have 20 libraries, which is enormous. And then they have all of these labs and centers and institutes. So Stanford, in terms of its importance as a research institute, is massive. And that's really the first thing they do. First and foremost, they are a research institute. So, you know, if you're excited about research, one of the things you can do is just start going through, if you're interested in Stanford, you're interested in research, and looking at, like, they have this center on longevity, and an institute on energy sciences. So it's endless, right? There are dozens and dozens of research institutes and possibilities for research at Stanford. Let's take a look at Case Western. So Case Western is a smaller university. It's not as large as Stanford, right? But they also have quite a few research institutes. So here you can see the Center for AIDS Research, the Center for Humanities, Growth Studies Center. So all of these centers are basically housed on the campus to do research. And this is what faculty are involved in. They bring people on board to do it. They hire people just to work in their institutes and in their centers. So this is really a big part of the identity of these universities. This is first and foremost what they do. So most of their focus and most of the focus of their faculty is on the research. And when they go for tenure, they're expected to do research, publish books, make breakthroughs, all of that. So that's really important to kind of get your head around. That's what they do. The second thing that universities do is that they educate students at the graduate level. So they give out master's degrees and graduate degrees. And this takes up a lot of energy of the faculty. They're basically training graduate students. They have often a large group of students getting masters and graduates. And it's also part of their, as a company, what the university does is they're educating these students. So these people, graduate students, are all going out into the world to make a difference, to have an impact on research, and so it's a very important part of what universities do as well. Then what universities do, sort of their third level of focus, is undergraduate education, right? So, and we can see what that looks like when we look at, do a search term plus major. So we see, okay, this is how large universities actually educate undergraduates, right? So but what I want to be emphasizing here is it's not their only priority. It's their third priority. And depending on where you are, it might kind of fall down the list of priorities. So when you walk into the administrative offices, you are interfacing with people that are helping all kinds of people at the university, right? They're not just there to help you. So that makes a difference. It makes a difference in the experience that you're having. It makes a difference on being on the campus and the people that you're surrounded by. So to take a look at majors, this will be one of the most important things that you're doing. And one of the search is, you know, pretty basic. Again, you're going to do the name of the college. So in this case, we are looking at Cal Poly, and I did Cal Poly plus majors, right? That's it, search terms. And the other thing that distinguishes universities is that they have multiple colleges. So they'll have, as you can see with Cal Poly, they have College of Agriculture and Environmental Science. They have College of Architecture and Environmental Design, College of Engineering, College of Liberal Arts, right? And I think that's it. So, and underneath each of these colleges, they have majors. As students, when you're applying to these universities, you're applying to a college and a major. So for example, when you fill out your USC application, you're going to be selecting Viterbi for engineering, and it'll have the major electrical engineering next to it. Or you'll be, you know, choosing the liberal arts college, and that'll have then, you know, English or philosophy next to it. And the same thing for the UCs. They're often listed by the college and by the major. So one of the things you're doing is coming in and making sure, does the college have my major, right? Does the college, so like College of Liberal Arts, let's say that you want to be a creative writing major. Well, they don't have a creative writing department, but maybe it's in their English department. So you would poke in the English department and start taking a look. And one of the things that you would be looking for is, you know, do they have creative writing courses? Do they have creative writing faculty? Those are that would be part of your search to make sure that they have what you want. You know, you're going there to study. So do they have what you want to study? The other thing you'll be looking at large universities, if you're interested in professional training, is this is pretty new and it's actually pretty exciting to me. It's been building for a very long time, but universities are now offering vocational certificates and they're making these available to undergrads. So for example, at Northwestern, you might not be able to get a degree in management or in managing, but you can get a certificate, and they have a certificate in financial economics. They have a certificate in managerial analytics. So these are very specialized topics. So it's one way that you can strengthen your skill set as a student before you graduate, right? So this is pretty cool. Different, you know, mostly universities, we're not seeing this at small liberal arts colleges, and we're going to take a look at that now. But this is a growing trend. And it allows universities to offer more specialized experiences, hands-on experiences to students. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so let's talk about internships. So we're going to take a look at USC here. Again, your search terms are going to be USC for the college name and internships. And this is really important because people used to think that you would get into a job just because you got a degree in something, but that's not the world we're in anymore. People are going to hire you because you've had experience, because you know how to do something, because the day that you walk onto the job, they need to know we can stick you in this group with these people. You're going to be, you know, shadowing this person. And we know that you've had some experience and you've had some exposure, so you know how to do this. So internships are really key to your success in the job force. So you want to be looking at internships as a college student. It's another reason that your resume that we're helping you build is really important. We've basically helped you to build a resume using a template that's AI friendly and that you can use for college. So when you go off to college, and in fact, starting in your freshman year, you might be sending your resume around to get an internship or a research position or a job on campus. So all of these things are super exciting and things to look into. So here you can see at USC, they have a pretty big career center with lots of opportunities. And they're also training you to go through the job interview process. So this is where you would go to poke around and say, okay, you know, when should you apply for a job or an internship? And you know, if you poke through here, you can see what are all the different internships that they actually offer. So some schools will be quite developed in this area. Other colleges may not be. So this may be something that's really important to you, and you may end up taking a college off of your list because they don't seem to focus on internships very much, one. And two, you've spoken to students and none of them have internships, right? So they say, oh yeah, well, they say they have internships at the campus, but they actually don't. So if this is important to you, doing research, having an internship, doing service, when you do your visits to campus, you want to check in with students. It's your only moment to make sure that you're doing, you know, making sure that they actually offer what they say they offer, or if they don't offer it, that at least students are having these experiences somehow. So those are the active experiences that you'll want to have in preparation for graduating from college. Okay, so that is basically an overview of universities. Again, just to summarize, universities have a lot of priorities. You're not their number one priority. They're doing a lot of things. If you're really looking for an experience where you feel that the university and the college is very focused on you and they're giving you the attention you need to make sure that if you're looking at large universities, you want to ask about that when you're on your visit. So Stanford, for example, is a large university. It fits this category we're discussing. But as a freshman, you actually have 3 advisors. You have an advisor in your dorms, you have an advisor for your college, and you have, I think there's an undergraduate advisor as well. So lots of undergraduate support, despite the fact that Stanford has a lot of different priorities. They've built that in to make sure that students are successful. So that's just something to be thinking about. Small liberal arts colleges. So I've taught at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I also taught at Bates College. I've also taught at the University of San Francisco. So I'm very familiar with sort of the different feeling that these different institutes can have depending on the size. Small liberal arts college, the only thing they're doing is educating undergrads. That's all they do. A university like University of San Francisco, they're actually providing masters and they're doing undergraduate degrees. University of California, Santa Cruz is doing all of it. They're doing graduates, teaching graduate students, doing research and doing undergraduate education. So if you're looking for an experience where you are going to be the sole focus of the university or of the college, then a small liberal arts college is really great because you walk into the dean of students and you're the prime focus. They know who you are by first name. The faculty know who you are. You are working with your faculty on their research because they don't have graduate students. They have undergraduate students to help them. So let's just kind of walk through, do just what we did before. If you're looking for majors at a small liberal arts college, again, you're going to do majors. Let's look at Bowdoin this time. And you can just sort of see the difference. So it's not a huge list, pages and pages and pages of majors or multiple colleges with different majors underneath them. You've basically got a list of about 25 majors in here, right? So that's what makes a small liberal arts college different as well. Now they have concentrations, so that's why the list is a little bit longer. And under each of the majors. So for example, in here, they've got creative writing under English. Under chemistry, they have 5 different areas of chemistry. Under biology, they have 3 different concentrations. But they're not multiple colleges. You're just applying into one college and you're choosing your majors there. Doing the same kind of search that we did earlier on undergraduate research. This is Carleton. Carleton is very well known for their STEM. They're a very strong school in STEM. They very much focus on undergraduate research. In fact, they have a whole curriculum built around it and a pedagogy around it. So they are teaching you mentorship. So you are being mentored by a faculty member because, again, the faculty members don't have graduate students to help them. So they're going to mentor you through the process of working in their lab or doing their research. They focus on originality. They often inspire students to take on their own research projects, and sometimes they provide grants for you to do that. They help you to understand the development of methodology in reporting. So as you can see, a school like Carleton this is really a big part of what they're doing, is training undergraduates to go into the research world. And it's part of the reason that small liberal arts colleges produce the highest number of graduate students. So there's quite a bit of statistics and data on this. Small liberal arts colleges produce way more graduate students than universities. So it's kind of interesting. All right, so let's see what else do we have here that we're going to take a look at. Working with faculty. So you can do this for both searches, either a large university or a small liberal arts college. Let's say that you know what you want to study and you're really excited about Bates College, let's say. So you're going to do a search for Bates, the subject that you're interested in. So in this case, astrophysics, and faculty. So again, getting to this is going to be very difficult if you go through the front door. It's going to be hard to dig it up. And sometimes it could take you 30 minutes. So put it in your search terms. When you do this, you're going to get the list of faculty that work in that area. And then you're going to go ahead and poke through and see who they are and see what they do. So Hong Ling, Professor Hong Ling, she focuses on physics and aeronautics is for her degree, her master's degree. She has research interest in the dynamics in lasers and nonlinear optical systems. She's teaching all of these courses. She has a research group. So you could go to Bates College and work with her, right? So, and you could do that in your freshman year. So this is, again, one of the differences of a small liberal arts college is that you can actually reach out to faculty, see what they're doing, and start working with them. Might be a little more complicated at a big place like Stanford, very complicated at places in the UC system because they don't necessarily have it. The system isn't necessarily set up for that in UC schools. UC Santa Cruz and Davis are better set up for that. So if you're interested in research, you might consider looking at those schools. Let's see. And then internships. So when you're looking at these small liberal arts colleges, let's look at Fordham. You know, what do they have in the way of internships? Well, look at all the people that you can do internships with there. They've got quite a few opportunities. Fordham is located, they have 2 campuses, one in Center, New York, and one about 40 minutes outside of New York. So they have, you know, they've built relationships in the city. Let's just look at another school so that you can get an idea of what this might look like. American, you can go to classes in the morning and be doing an internship in the afternoon in DC. Very, very cool. They have lots of opportunities there. Colgate is kind of far away. And this is a school where if I was going to go visit, I would want to find out. So they're out a bit in the countryside. It's very unlikely that you can get into some major city and do an internship in the afternoon. That said, you could probably do something on campus, work with a faculty member, possibly have a job on campus. So these are the kinds of things that you want to be taking into consideration. And really, this is about thinking what's important to you. Are internships important to you? Is research important to you? Is service important to you? Right? So let's just take a quick look at what service looks like as well. If you do a search, I have that coming up in just a minute. So we'll take a look at that. There are 2 resources that we're sharing with you that we love. One is called the Hidden Ivies. This is a Wikipedia page, and it basically is a list of all the kind of top schools in the country that a lot of people don't know about. So the Ivies aren't in here, but all of the other schools are in here. And mostly these are private schools. So this is a really great list for building matches, building safeties. These are really outstanding schools, and they're on our curated list as well. So you'll have that to go through. We may be pointing you to that list as we're kind of giving you feedback and talking to you about it. Colleges That Change Lives is also a really important website. Lauren Pope basically went out to visit colleges all over the country that are less well known. And a lot of these are in the Midwest. They're outstanding schools with a very strong focus on individualized education and a strong core liberal arts education. They, you know, some of them have business and some of them have engineering and computer science. This is really great for students that aren't necessarily focused on a brand name school, that are interested in making sure that they have a very intimate experience of college, right? So this is also a great list. We recommend it. There are schools on here that you'll recognize, like Reed is on this list. Lawrence and Kalamazoo are on this list. They're just really, it's a fantastic list of colleges. So I can't recommend it enough. Other medium-sized schools that are out there, and we will be sharing this information with you. A lot of students say, you know, I'd like to put a few small schools on my list, but I also really want some medium-sized schools and some large universities. So Santa Clara, Wake Forest, Case Western, University of San Francisco, Johns Hopkins, Vanderbilt. There are a bunch of schools out there that are larger than 2,000. So most small liberal arts colleges have 2,000 students. Many students think that this is like high school, so they don't want to consider schools that are 2,000. The difference is that you don't see the same people every day. There aren't cliques. People aren't in the same routine, eating lunch with the same people at the same time. There are, you know, there's a lot more kind of chaos to the routine. So you're not walking down the same halls necessarily at the same time in the same way. So I really invite you to challenge that assumption that a small liberal arts college is too small and that it's just going to be like high school. It really isn't. And all of the students that we've had that have gone off to small liberal arts colleges have said, I'm just so glad I did this. I'm having an amazing time, very close with my peers and my cohort. And I have very tight relationships with my professors. So just want to put that all out there as somebody that is just a great advocate for small liberal arts colleges. Okay, so the other thing that you're going to be doing, and this is sort of our last section of the presentation, is making sure that a college is a cultural fit. And I can't emphasize this enough. You can do quite a bit of homework before going. You're going to get the clearest sense when you step on campus. So I have students that for years have been saying, I stepped on campus and saw this person wearing a Patagonia fleece, and I knew that I was in the right place. We have no access to what makes you feel that you're at home, right? So we can't say, oh, this is a great fit for you, because culturally and in terms of your vibe as a student and what you're looking for and what kind of people you're looking for, that's very personal. So again, it's really important that you kind of read ahead of time. I'm going to show you some great websites for this. Get a sense of, what is this college like? Is it if there are a lot of fraternities, is that really the great place for me? If it's very outdoorsy and kind of more, for people that are doing climbing and skiing in the afternoons, is that the right fit for me? Or would I prefer to be on an urban campus? Is diversity important to me? We're currently working on a tool that we hope to launch in probably 2 weeks and send it all out to you, where you can actually put that criteria, because we don't see this anywhere out there. And we actually think it's the most important thing for students, is to figure out what is going to feel like a cultural fit for you. So we'll be sharing that with you shortly. In the meantime, you want to be doing, again, research on this. So if the academic research, it'll probably take you, maybe an hour and a half to look at majors, look at faculty, maybe less, even 30 minutes, just to get a sense of, like, academically, what does this school look like to me? Once you get into the cultural fit, it might take a little more time. One of the things that I recommend, and you can do this as a family, is to get the campus tour up on YouTube or from the website, and you can watch it as a family at dinner time or when you're hanging out on the weekends. So that's a great way to sort of see, what does this school feel like? Is there a central campus? Is it green? Are the buildings made out of brick, or are they all very modern and kind of cold? These are the kinds of things that students they come back and they say, I love the architecture, or I really didn't like the architecture. It didn't feel good to me. So these are the kinds of things that you need to be feeling out. So a great way to do that quickly is a 5-minute campus tour. We highly recommend, so I'm a huge fan of doing the information session at home rather than doing that on campus. And the reason for that is that campus tours are generally 2.5, 3 hours long. They're pretty draining. You're there with everybody, so they're pretty impersonalized. A lot of people are asking questions that you're not that interested in. So you come out of that campus tour, either they can be very good, or if the tour guide isn't very good, a student might be turned off of a school simply because the tour guide. And I can't tell you, I think every year we get that story, is that the tour guide really wasn't that great. And so it kind of ruined the experience for the family or the student. So I really recommend going to an information session. It's going to be focused on the qualities of the school that they want you to understand. And they're basically selling themselves to you. This is what we value about ourselves as an institution. They're going to walk you through what it's like to be a student at their school, what's available on campus and off of campus. And then they'll even talk about things that they'd like you to think about if you're applying. You will then have that person's contact information. You can follow up with them on an email. And then when you go to the visit, if you decide after doing the campus tour and going to the information session that, you know what, I think we should go visit this place. I like it. I like the feeling of it. Let's go. Then you have somebody that you can actually go speak to when you get on campus as well. You can go in and say, hey, I wanted to say hi. It was really great following up with you. Do you have a couple minutes? We have some questions about these internships that you're offering, or we'd like to know what you're looking for in the application process. You said a few things in the information session that was really engaging. Then you have the rest of the time to wander the campus, go talk to students, go into the department and kind of get a sense for how, what it feels like to be a student in that department by reading what's on the billboards or stepping into an office to meet with a faculty member, either because you've organized it before or because a faculty member has their door open. This used to happen to me at Bates all the time. Students would be coming in on the summer or during the fall, and they would knock on my door and say, hey, hi there, my name is Sandrine, and I'm really interested in coming to school here. Do you have a few minutes? And I loved it. And those students ended up being in my classes. So there's that as well. And that gives you a much more personalized sense. I can't tell you, when students have the opportunity to talk to faculty, they just light up and they love it. And even talking to the secretaries of the department, they know everybody and everything. So kind of going in and chit-chatting with them and asking any questions you have, that is really where you're going to be. And by doing this, you're going to get a much stronger sense of what it's like to be a student at the school. You'll, want to go through kind of who are the majors, who are the faculty. You can do that before you go. Again, at the very least, make sure that they have your major. You don't necessarily have to look at courses and faculty before you go, but if you'd like to meet with a faculty member before you go, take a look. Email the faculty member and say, we're going to be there during these weeks. Is there any chance that you'll have a moment to meet? We do this every year with students, and I would say 10 of our students end up doing it. It's a great, as I say, a great opportunity. The other thing you're looking for, and I mentioned this earlier, are if you're really into service, and many of you are doing great things out there, having an impact, and that's important to you. So you may want to look at what kind of service focus the school has, like how big is service a part of their school. So I'm just going to share my screen with you again. Here's Pitzer. Community engagement is huge for Pitzer. They're really, really into it. They ask about it in their essay question. There's all kinds of ways that you can make help students in the community by tutoring or helping in the classroom. They have ways for you to do research and fundraising. So Pitzer is really focused on this. They have a very active engagement center. Loyola Marymount, Santa Clara, and San Francisco actually incorporate service into the curriculum, especially Santa Clara and Loyola Marymount. So those are schools where service is actually really important. So if it's important to you, I highly recommend looking into that as well. That means that when you arrive on campus, you can actually go to the service center. Again, you've done some preliminary homework. So now you're not just showing up deer in the headlights trying to figure out where you are. You actually have places and people that you're going to go visit to make this a really, really educated and intimate visit, right? You might know faculty or friends that know faculty, or friends that are attending the school, or friends that were alumni there that still live in the area. They will give you a tour. They'll show up and meet with you. People love doing this. So that's another thing to think about before you go is, do we know anyone here? Is anyone a graduate from our high school that would meet with us? So that's another thing that your counseling office at high school can set up for you, is who's attending that school that you might go meet, and they can give you a tour. So those are all great ways to make the tour, not take the risk that somebody is not going to do a good job of the tour and you're not going to be interested in the school, and to actually do things that you can then write about in your applications that will only inspire you further about the school, and to know that you've really done your due diligence, since you're going to be there for 4 years and you're paying a lot of money to be there. So that's really our recommendation for how to go about the campus visits. There are also a lot of great links out there for understanding cultural fit, and I'm just going to share my screen with you again so that you can see. The one that I like the most is Unigo, and you'll see very quickly why. So Unigo, oops, I went to the wrong link. Let's go get the right link here. Unigo basically does reviews with students. So students are asked to fill out, let's see, where is it going? Here it is, University of Vermont. So students do reviews. They take data on all of this and they weigh it and they provide these percentages. These are the key questions. These are really the key questions that you want to be asking, right? Because each of you is sort of looking for something different in a college. You want to know what the college vibe is. So here it's like, are there intellectual conversations? How accessible are your professors? How much drinking is going on? How strong is the Greek system? Some of you, if you find out that everybody's in the Greek system, you may decide that's not what you want, or you may decide that's exactly what you want. So just that question alone can have a big impact on whether you're going to visit a school or even go there, right? So going back to my anecdote, you don't want to be surprised to find out that everybody's outdoorsy. You want to know that ahead of time. You want to know that these are the people you want to be with because you're outdoorsy and they're outdoorsy. So how much alcohol is being consumed? Do students do drugs? How politically active are the students? Is it an artsy school? So these are all questions that you can't necessarily get from just looking at the website, reading about the schools, asking your friends even, because maybe they're in their own scene within the college. So it's a really great way to start understanding what these schools are about. And again, making sure it's worth your time to go visit. Other websites that I like a lot are Wikipedia, especially a lot of students love history. Great place to learn about the history of a school. Some of the colleges, you'll be surprised to find out they were religious. First, some of them you'll find out they were opened in, this one, Carleton, was opened in 1866. Many of these small liberal arts colleges have been around for over 150 years. So it's pretty cool. So if you like history, it'll tell you who the notable alumni and faculty are. There's a whole bunch of cool, typical encyclopedic facts in there. Doing the freshman profile search is also really important. So again, you're going to put the name of the school, in this case, University of Michigan, and then you're going to add freshman profile. And this is where you'll find out how many women, how many men are attending, what's the ethnic breakdown. And this has become very, very important for students in the last year. They want to make sure they're going to a school that's diverse. So this is a great way to find out that information. We'll also be including that in our tool. This information is really important. You can see the GPA average of students that have been admitted and enrolled at the University of Michigan is unweighted 3.9 to 4.0. Exam scores for the ACT are between 31 and 34. And the SAT scores are 670 verbal, 680 math on the low range. So this also gives you a sense, and we'll be kind of checking this out with you throughout the next 6 months, is this college a reach? Is it a match? How do I need to count this on my list? The last thing that I want to share with you are these newspapers are a great way, and especially you don't necessarily have to do this before you go, right? Because this is really the details, and maybe you'll pick up a newspaper while you're there. But before you do an interview with somebody, either in the admissions process, which might be over the summer or in the fall or next winter, this is a great way to understand what is the culture of the school, what's going on, what are people talking about, what are the hot topics, right? So this is the student newspaper. And then the alumni newspaper gives you, and parents, you might be more interested in this, is, what's the state of the university? What are they focusing on? What's going well? These kinds of things. This is very high level, generally speaking. That sometimes we'll have a highlight on a faculty member who's done something really cool, had a breakthrough, or been given a prize. So that's always really interesting. It might be something that you end up writing about students if that is exciting to you. So basically those are two other resources that you might be interested in. We have a campus visit handout. So, and we have all of the tips in here, how to go about preparing. Keep in mind that tours do book up if you decide that you're not going to do your own self-guided tour, like I've just described, and you really want to do the tour on campus. They do book up, so you will want to start thinking about, okay, which colleges am I very interested in going to, do the research, quickly, and then start to think about, all right, we're going to go there. We need to book a tour. We need to book a hotel. We need to book a flight, all of that. But those are also really good reasons to do your research ahead of time. There's going to be at least usually 2 of you, if not 3 of you, going out to do these visits. So it's a lot to organize and a lot to pay for. So making sure that you like the school before you go is really important. This list is great. It tells you how to do in-campus visits. Everything that I've just talked you through is in here, as are my highly recommended alternative self-guide. And I give you a whole bunch of tips for different things that you might do while you're on campus rather than doing the tour. So the tour is basically a marketing tour for the most part. It's nice because you get into the dorms and they take you to the cafeteria and the library, but really your focus should be on how happy are the students here? What's the major like, or the college that I would be in? I would definitely recommend, if you're applying to a specific college, to do the tour for the college before you do the main campus tour. So College of Engineering, College of Nursing, College of Journalism, College of Biological Sciences, do those tours rather than doing the campus tour if you really want to do a tour. So all of this is available to you. Some of these links we are giving you as links because we keep them active and we update them, especially we've just been through COVID, so we were constantly updating our documents. Other documents you have in your shared folder. So the ones that are more stagnant are in your shared folder. The lists that we're giving you where we'll be adding information, you'll get our link and you'll be able to view that. You can print it out, that kind of thing. Okay, so we're about to go into questions. Before we do that, I just want to speak briefly about how to best work with us. We will be sending out emails. I'm a parent too. I receive tons of emails from my son's high school, so I know what that's like. It's really important that you read our emails, and I know everybody will tell you that, but we do have updates. There were some interesting things that happened kind of mid-season last year. We are trying to stay on top of ChatGPT, and we'll be giving you updates on that. That's a big issue this year, and we have jumped in and we're working with it, and we're trying to understand what the conversation is, both on college campuses and in terms of faculty and learning and teaching, and on high school campuses and in admissions. So there's a lot of upstir right now about it, and we're on top of it and tracking it. So we will be keeping you up to date. We're also preparing for the possibility of essays going to video essays next year. It could be that several schools, last year, many schools decided to do video essays instead of interviews, or they included it as a possible addition to your application, like University of Chicago, Bowdoin. So we are in the process of preparing a curriculum around doing video essays and coming up with tips in the event that we really have to pivot over the summer. Really don't believe that the UCs will be making any changes here. They move very slowly, and I don't think that they'll be able to require video essays. So we'll be working on UC essays over the summer. And generally speaking, colleges will get this information out to us pretty quickly. I would say large universities like the UC system would be sharing any major changes they're expecting, at least have it in start the conversation so that people are, especially high school counselors and counselors like us, are aware of it. So reading our communications is important. We are tracking your student. So basically what we're doing is sort of sending out an update of like, these are the things that are due. This is what's going on. You've got your checklist. If a student hasn't turned something into us, we are contacting the student. So we're not bothering parents. We're not sending an email out to the student and the parent. We're contacting the student, and we're going to be contacting you by text first. Then we send an email. If we don't hear back from you, then we're bringing in parents. So we really try to bring parents in as a last resort, and we're only doing that if we're not hearing from you, or we're not getting a response, or the response that we need, and we need to bring parents in and say, hey, this isn't moving forward. We need it to move forward. But the idea is to keep parents out of this process so they're not stressed out, so that you're not stressed out, and for you to really lean on us to help you through this process. That's why you've hired us, is to make this process as stressless as possible, as smooth as possible, to help you bring out your best qualities. And that's what we're really here to do and what we're focusing on. The best way to reach us if you have long questions is by email, because we're going to need to write long answers. We're not going to want to do that in a text. It might get lost. You might want to hold on to those answers. So if you have long questions, please email us. If you have short questions, you can text those to us. If you have any questions about something in the newsletter, you can respond to the newsletter. That'll come through to us. We'll be sending you the phone number that you should be texting, and we will be responding to hello@Fahey Associates. So if you have any questions, please send them to us there. The last thing that I want to say is that we do give out recommendations, and we may say something like, I'd really like you to listen to what I'm going to say right now. This is a very strong recommendation. And the reason that we're doing that is because we've seen the effects when students or parents don't do what we're recommending, either that they push too many super reaches on a list, which then has an emotional impact for the student and a family impact, and it's very stressful later on. We will also come back and say, this is not a sound college list. We want it to be balanced. We want your chances of getting into colleges to be very high, and for you to have a lot of opportunities, key opportunities that you're excited about. If we tell you to get a letter of recommendation from somebody you're working with, we highly recommend that you do it. We're not going to say it 3 times. We're going to say, please get a letter from the principal, or please get a letter from your boss or your coach or your music teacher. We think that's really important, and it'll make your application stand out. So it's important, if we're giving you recommendations, we will say it once, we'll say it twice, we may not say it 3 times. So just want to say, in terms of working with us, it's really important that if you hear us say something and you're not sure about it, just say, well, why? Why do you think that's important? And we're happy to explain why. But we've been doing this for a long time, and we have seen the outcomes, both positive and negative, when people do or don't respond, kind of follow our advising. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for sticking in there. I know that was long, and we covered a lot. The main thing is really the college list. So we can't emphasize that enough. It's really important, students, for you to find places that you're excited about and that you really want to go to, and you feel like you're going to be around the kind of people that you want to be around and have the opportunities that you're going to have. So, a little bit each week can go a long way. If you have questions, you reach out to us. We're here to go through this process with you. And yeah, we've got several months ahead, so you've got plenty of time, but I would definitely recommend kind of stepping in sooner than later, so that it's not all piling up, in March before you want to start going. You need to start planning your trips. So, it's easy to say, well, we're going to go to Boston and then we'll work it out from there. Or, we're going to go to Southern California so we can work it out from there. That works fine. But I know that planning ahead is really important for these kinds of visits. So that's all I have. It looks like we've got some questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie, who's going to be presenting your questions, and we'll answer them.
Okay, we've got a couple about our program. The first is, do we work directly with the student's high school college counselor?
Okay, great question. High schools do not want to speak with private counselors at all, and they won't. They feel that it's too complicated. If you're at a private school, we highly recommend that you don't tell them that you're working with us for this reason. They don't like it, first of all. Secondly, they might not go to bat for you in the same way. So if they think you're working with somebody else, then they may not put the same level of effort into working with you, right? Just not in any kind of intentional way, but just the way that the brain can work. They might be like, oh, that person's fine. They've got somebody already helping with them. I'm going to focus on these other students. So we don't do that kind of coordination. Of course, we're happy to listen to what you say, the feedback that you're getting from your counselor. We want a harmonious relationship here, so we are going to respond as harmoniously as we possibly can. We will listen to what the high school counselor recommends, and we'll kind of suggest a plan of action that keeps peace for everybody. And that's really the way that we like to handle these kinds of things. So.
Okay, the next question we have is about webinars, whether or not we will be recording them and sharing them with CAP students and families.
So we have this main webinar. There may not be any other webinars coming up unless there's some big news breaking. The workshops are recorded, but they are required for students. So students absolutely have to be there. You can't watch a recording of a workshop and get the same kind of real-time experience out of it. So we're really want to emphasize how important it is to be at the 2 writing workshops and at the boot camp. They will be recorded. We record everything we do. So yes, anything we do, there are recordings. There's usually a handout that comes with it, just like today.
Okay, and then a question about summer planning. If the family would like to discuss majors and summer options, would that be a separate meeting or part of family meeting 1?
It's probably best to send us an email, and then it just depends how complex your question is. We may want to set up a meeting to discuss your questions in person, depending on what they are. A lot of people have been sending us things, and we've been saying, take a look at this program, let me know what you think. And they'll say, oh, this is great, it's perfect, it's just what I wanted. Or, you know what, I'm really struggling with the idea of going to these camps. I'd really rather do something else, in which case, you know, we don't want anyone to do things because you think that's the right thing to do necessarily. We really want you to be in alignment with what you're doing, what you're excited to do, what you feel like would be the best next step for you. So the first step is to send us an email, and then we'll either recommend a meeting or we'll answer your question and kind of see how that goes. Ideally, we would like you to have a college list before the family meeting, potentially have come in knowing that you're going to visit a couple colleges for that meeting, or maybe you visited them, and everybody's kind of in a different place. We had students coming in last year in February. We had other families coming in February. We had other families coming in May. So it's really up to you. And again, if you're not really sure when to come, just send us a message and we're happy to help you figure that out. Just by you'd say, well, we're not really sure. This is where we are. This is what we've done. When do you think we should book this? And we may say, you know what? Let's have a short meeting now, and then we can do that family meeting in March or April or something like that. So the best thing is just to get in touch with us so we can start the conversation.
And then in terms of courses, if colleges are not seeing senior grades, why is there such an important focus on 4 years of a foreign language?
Great question. So 4th year of language is really for the very, very top schools, the small liberal arts colleges like them, the Ivy Leagues like them, colleges in general like to see 4 years, but you can do 3. So I just want to make that clear. The reason they are going to ask you what classes you're taking. So they want to see that you're filling out the curriculum or the courses that you have, that you have the courses that they're looking for in the senior year. And you pretty much have to stick to those courses. So you'll be adding those courses in August once you've confirmed your schedule for the fall. If for any reason you drop a course and you've applied to a college, you actually need to contact them and let them know. So they're holding you accountable to those lists of classes. Any massive changes to your courses in the senior year after you've applied is grounds for dismissal. We had a student one year contact us, not one of the students we'd worked with, but a student contact us and say, I dropped my computer science course and now I'm being dropped by the college. So you don't want to do that. So what you're doing is actually important. They're just not seeing the grades for it until January. So some schools, what they'll do is if they're concerned and they feel that your senior fall grades are very important, they will defer you to regular decision so they can see your midterm transcript. Other schools might call your counselor and ask for what's called a quarter report. All of you get them. Some schools are on trimester, very, very few here in the Bay Area, but they can actually provide their quarter grades. So it really depends on where you're applying and what the admissions process will be for next year. Things change every year.
Okay, great. And then in terms of exams, we have a question about test optional. Since this is increasing with the number of applications having increased, leading to a lower admit rate, how do we really know what the admit rate is?
Very good question. Colleges are going to update their websites. They generally do this by June. And sometimes the news is on target, sometimes it isn't. One time, Boston University reported an 8% admit rate, and then it turned out that it was more like 18% later on in the year. So USC just released that they had a 6% admit rate for their early round. And they're expecting their admit rate to be 6% for regular decision. So these things can appear in the news, but we really don't know until June. And we'll be putting together what we understand, because college websites, they're not always perfectly up to date. And sometimes they don't get updated until August, unfortunately. But most of the time we have the information, and we are going to be building a spreadsheet on our end about what are the requirements this year around. But we have to wait until everything's been updated. And as you all know, there are a lot of changes this year, so we'll just have to see what that is. So the best way is you can kind of just do a raw search to see online if they've announced their admissions rate. You can call, and then we're going to also be tracking it to the best of our ability.
All right, next we have some questions about recommendation letters. We presented on the structure for teacher recommendations. Are outside recommenders supposed to use the same structure, or are they expected to be different?
Fantastic question. We will be sending you out a PDF, and I'll actually do this as part of the handouts, a PDF on what an outside, so there's actually, the Common App has put together a handout for families about how an outside, directed to outside letter recommenders, so they know how to write the letter. So we'll send that around to you, and then you can just provide that to whoever's going to write the letter.
Okay, and then in terms of college list, why do we recommend only 2 reach schools?
You might have 4, so it just really depends on how many super reaches you have. And this will be a discussion that we'll be having with you. It may be that you're very, very certain about your matches and your reaches, or maybe you're including CSU as your safety, which we don't count as a college. So maybe you'll have fewer safeties that you're doing with us. So there you'll get a sense of this as we work together. So, we'll kind of say, all right, well, you've got these reaches, so we need to make sure you've got this many matches. You can eliminate one of your safeties here and add a reach here. So that mainly what we want is to make sure that the spread is really even, right? Not even because you won't apply that many safeties, but we want to make sure you have enough matches. That's the most important piece. But we definitely are encouraging reaches. I've broken it, 2 super reaches and 2 reaches, because generally those are collapsed together. But really, when you think about super reaches, you have to think lottery ticket. The chances of getting into super reaches are just very, very hard unless you're a recruit or you have connections. I mean, it's just really, really hard. So we're just want to make sure that students aren't overwhelming themselves with work and over focusing on schools where their chances of getting in are a lot weaker than the schools in their reach and match categories.
When is it decided whether to apply early decision, and do you generally recommend that?
So when you apply early decision, you have to go. Absolutely. You are giving up your opportunity for scholarship often. So if a school knows you're going to come, they're expecting you to pay full tuition. So they may not turn around and offer you a merit scholarship. It doesn't mean they won't. They might admit you and then provide a scholarship additionally. It's mostly important for ED that you're really sure that if you get in, you're not going anywhere else. And to be honest, I don't think we had that many students going ED this year. I think we had maybe 5 or 6 that went ED. I'll go back and take a look at that, but it can help you to get in. So we really recommend ED if you're really crazy about one of your matches. That's actually a very good strategy. So if you feel very, very strongly that you want to go to let's say William and Mary, then you might want to apply their early decision, right? So these are conversations that we have. Oftentimes students want to ED to one of their reaches, which is fine. So we'll just talk about that. Early action has grown. More schools are offering early action than before. So, and some schools like Harvard and Stanford have what's called early restrictive action, which means that you can't apply to any other schools on a binding policy you can only apply to those schools. So it really depends what colleges are on your mix or in your list so that we can come up with the right strategy. So again, that'll be something that we advise you on, and we definitely start that conversation in family meeting 1 for sure. That's a big part of it. And then family meeting 2 is checking in with you to see where are you on this question? What are you thinking? And then we'll make a decision, and that's a full month and a half ahead of time. And you do need to let your high school know. So it's important that we do that in August.
And then also regarding college list, we have a question. Can you confirm the percentages by category, which I believe is referring to safety, match, reach, and super reach? Felicia, I don't know if you want to recap, but we'll also be sending this information. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll be sending that out in the handout. So you'll see that. And those, those aren't necessarily hard and fast. I want to be clear. It's kind of a general idea of what you should be aiming for, just to give you an idea of sort of what that spread should look like. And again, we're here to answer your questions. I can't emphasize that enough. We're here.
And then we have here, some schools have high rates of acceptance, but those same schools have a higher than normal number of families that are able to make large donations to guarantee a place, or that they have a higher than normal percentage of legacy families that are applying. How do children at those schools navigate this issue if their family will not be making a donation? And then there's a second part of this question, which is the stated admission rates do not factor in legacy or donations. Is that correct?
Sorry, what's the last question?
Whether or not admissions rates factor into the legacy or donation kind of topic.
They do. So admissions rates factor in everybody that's a recruit, anybody that has any connections. What we've seen in the last year is admissions offices are really trying to pull away. So the whole debate on equity and making this process really fair is underway. It's some campuses more than others, but some development offices, which is basically if people have been donating money, they call the development office and say, how do we go about making, we've been making this donation. What do we need to do to make sure that the admissions office knows about this? Or is there anything special that we should be doing? Development offices are really pulling away from admissions. Admissions is pulling away from development offices. That's been happening at Stanford for over 10 years. So Stanford is very, very protective about their admissions process. Recruits are really a whole different ball of wax. If you're an outstanding athlete or an outstanding artist, you will be recruited, and you will potentially, often that where you're being recruited by August or September. That does get, those people are also factored in the admissions rate. So even if Stanford has an official rate of 4% admit rate, it's probably more like 1% or 2% when you take out all of the recruits and anybody, at Stanford, you really have to be like Bill Gates or something like that in order to have an impact. But at other schools, you don't. I mean, you need to, people that know the president or have been making large donations are kind of helped out. So it does affect everybody. It is a space that's taken. And as I say, it's something that there's quite a bit of debate about, and a certain amount of scrutiny that's occurring internally to campuses to try to erode the impression that this is sort of having, and to try to come up with a process that's a lot more fair for everybody.
And then another question just came in regarding college list. Admissions rates can vary based on the college or major and based on in-state or out-of-state tuition. Is there a comprehensive place to get this data as we're building out college lists?
So sorry, so yes, so that is, we are working on that, and we've been putting together an engineering computer science spreadsheet that we're updating. Again, each year we have to go in and kind of pull that information, and we have to pull it at the right time to make sure we're not giving you the information from last year, and we're sort of, crossing our fingers. But if you go onto the main website, oftentimes they have it listed, like the University of Washington, for example, only takes 3% out-of-state students for computer science. So applying there in computer science is not a good idea. They take, I think last year it was 23% students out of state for engineering. So these are things mostly for computer science and engineering. Those are the most competitive majors. They're the majors that are impacted where they just don't have enough space for everybody. So all the other majors for, liberal arts and sciences, even in the UC system, they're still admitting students into the programs. They know they take a certain amount for the program. Certainly for small liberal arts colleges, this isn't an issue. It's mostly for those large state universities with College of Engineering programs and with computer science. So those are the ones that, and again, be in contact with us. We're watching the numbers this year and we've been seeing what's happening. We've also been warning families about, applying to computer science at those schools is going to be more competitive, and you are going to want to think about another major, or why do you want to think about another major? Just because it does raise, or brings down the admit rate probably by 5% at some places and maybe a little bit more at others. So you do need to keep that in mind as you're creating the list, and that's what we're also here to help you with. And I think I answered all parts of that question, Jamie.
Yes, ma'am, you did.
Okay.
And then we do have 3 lingering questions, but I'll make the recommendation that we address these with those families individually, as they're a little more nuanced. So for everyone, we do have those questions. If it wasn't answered, we'll reach out to you directly. And then that's it for Q&A.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We're really excited. It's going to be an interesting year. As I say, we're excited about it. And we're looking forward to starting with you all, and please be in touch with us. We'll send out, it can take up to 72 hours just to get the video on YouTube. So have a little patience with us if you don't get this immediately. We'll answer the questions that came in immediately, but in terms of getting the handout to you and the outside letter recommendation and the recording, it will take a few days for us just to make sure. It may not, we might get it out by tomorrow, but oftentimes it takes a few days just to download the video and prepare it and upload it. So anyways, thank you all so much. We're really happy to have you here, and looking forward to being by your side through this whole process this year. And I think that's, great. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.